Welcome to Board Game Publisher. If you want to start your own board game publishing company, or maybe you want to self-publish your own game, the first thing to do is think about it and make sure that this is really what you want to do. Let me make myself clearer about this. Publishing a game between the stage where you have a finished prototype and the moment you have a finished game on the table of the players is a very long journey, and it is a very complex one. I'm not saying that it's not possible to do it alone, of course, but you have to understand the scope and the width of the things that you will have to do. And before we start digging into detail onto all of these aspects, I think it's interesting to establish a kind of summary of all the tasks that are in front of you in chronological order, from the prototype stage to the finished product. First thing first, you have to start with a game prototype that you think is worthy of being published. It can come from a fellow board game designer, or it can be yours, no problem. But if you want to self-publish your own game, be very aware that you will lack the critical eye that a board game publisher can bring to a product, because of course the game is very good, it's yours. It may be something that will not be in your service, so it's very interesting to be aware about it. I don't say it cannot be done, but please be careful about that. If you publish your own game, you will not be as critical to your own game as you would be towards the game of another designer. The first thing to do is to make a contract with the board game designer, so that you can make sure that your obligation and your rights and the obligation and the rights of the designer are respected. The second thing will be to decide how you want the game to look. This will be very important, and this will be based on the market that you want to target the game for. Once you know exactly how you want the game to look, then you will be able to commission an artist to design all of the art for the game. Again, you could do the art yourself, but I do not recommend it. For the very same reason, you will not be as critical of your own production as you would be from someone external. Some people are able to do it. Ryan Laukat from Red Raven Game is very successful in making his own game design and his own art for the game he publishes himself. But please keep in mind that this is an exception. Once you have the art and the game ready, you will be needing to transform that idea, that prototype, into a finished product. So there will be a lot of development. I think you can never just take the prototype from the author, slap art on it and publish it that way. I think it's an important part of the added value that a board game publisher has, to provide additional development, to make sure to smooth the rough angles of the game, and to make sure that it works efficiently, to weed out all of the unnecessary additional little mechanisms that do not add to the gameplay itself. I will not elaborate too much on this aspect of things, because there are a lot of resources about game design already, and the game development is pretty much game design in itself. So let's leave that to other people that will cover it better than I do. Once you have the game and the art, you need to manufacture it and to produce a certain amount of finished boxes. That is usually something that you will commission a board game manufacturer to do. A company like Ludofact in Germany or in the States, a company like Longpack or What's Game in China, like Panda, of course, in Canada and China. What these companies do is that they will print the game. Actually, they will print all of the components, or they will commission an external printer to print all of the paper for them. And their core business is to really assemble this printed paper onto cardboard, turn that cardboard into boxes, into boards, into punch boards, into all of the components of the game. They are also able to produce or to source all of the components of the game, things like pawns, plastic pieces, miniatures, dice, and all of that. Board game manufacturers are industrial companies. They operate under specific constraints from the size and the processes they use as industrial companies. You need to understand that. You need to understand the processes that they are using inside, so that you can be realistic and efficient into the quotes that you ask for and the prices you receive. If you are asking things that are not realistic or not efficient, they will say no, they will refuse to produce it, or they will say yes, but it will be very expensive. So it doesn't make sense, and you really need to do the homework and to learn how things go there. For instance, if you ask for a print run of 1,000 units, they can produce a print run of 1,000 units, but it will not be exactly 1,000, because a print press is a large machine, and when it starts printing, the paper just flows into it at breakneck speed, and to print 1,000 copies, They will just let it run for 15, 20 minutes, maybe an hour, and get the results after that. And then they will assemble whatever they could print into your games. So they usually have a 5% tolerance, which means that for 1,000 units, you will get between 950 and 1,050 units. These are the kind of things that you will need to learn if you want to work efficiently with the manufacturing companies. Once your manufacturer is done with producing the games, they will want you to move the games away from the factory floor, of course, so that they can move on to the next game. This brings us into the world of logistics, and logistics is something very complex, and again, if you make mistakes there, they will be very costly as well. You need to learn about logistics, you need to learn about international transport, you need to learn about customs, you need to learn about regulations and all of that. Once the game has left the company and has been safely brought to your warehouse or to your distributor's warehouse, you need to work with the distributor. That's also something else that you have to learn, and that's also something different. The distributor will be the link between your board game company and the retailers that will sell the game to the general public. Of course, if you are doing a Kickstarter or if you are selling direct on your website, it will be different. You will use different channels to send the game from your warehouse to the customers. But anyways, logistics and distributions are something that you will have to learn and to consider carefully. Once the game has been distributed and is on the retailer shelves, you need also to care about marketing, and that's something really important as well. Marketing in board game publishing is a bit specific in that you do advertise the game to the gamers and not to the retailers, but your direct customer are the distributor and the retailer. The actual gamers are not your direct customer most of the time, so there are some intermediaries, and it leads to some interesting marketing challenges as well. Apart from that, there are a lot of inside phases, inside steps that you have to learn. For instance, before you go to the board game manufacturer to fabricate your game, to get your print run done, you need to prepare all of the files. You need to have the prepress and the desktop publishing done right, and it's a lot of specifics as well. Other things that you have to learn and to be very careful about are your responsibilities as a producer of a mass market product that you distribute to customers. So there are safety regulations that you have to take care about. There are safety regulations about products for children as well, because board games can be considered most of the time as a product for children. So all of these things you will have to learn. And only once you have taken care of all of these steps, once you have learned all of these things, will you have a finished game that is on the retailer shelves and you will see people starting to play it. So that's the best part of the game, of course, that you see people actually having fun with the game that you put on the market. But as you can see, this is a long way between the published game and the game on the retailer shelves. So if you want to do that, think about it. Think about all of these steps, all of the trades that are actually intervening into the whole process. And maybe you will realize that you want to focus on only some parts and leave the rest to someone else. It's always possible to hire freelancers or to cooperate with other professionals to get the whole process covered. You do not have to do everything by yourself, and I would actually advise against it. If you liked this video, hit the like button. If you did not like it, hit the dislike button. And leave me a comment so I can improve on it. If you want me to cover some specific topics, I will read all of the comments, so I am here for you. Also, this is not published on a regular basis, so if you want to make sure not to miss the next episode, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Thank you.